Hey guys, if you're awake at 2 a.m., curled up like a failed burrito, tossing and turning in a pile of blankets, welcome. You've just found a valid excuse to forget your job, ignore your unread messages, and most importantly, forget about sleeping. Tonight, I'm not taking you to the time of boastful kings or horseback warriors straight out of a Hollywood movie. No, tonight I'm taking you somewhere far greater. A place where democracy was born, philosophy bloomed, and art flourished. A place where people once sat around debating justice, truth, and the meaning of life, and then went home, made their wives shut up, cover their heads, and remain silent for the rest of their lives. Yes, tonight, you're going to live a day in the life of a woman in ancient Athens. Good news. You're living at the very heart of the ancient world, Athens, the homeland of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. You're smack in the cradle of philosophy, the birthplace of democracy, the land of majestic nude statues and theatre plays so long, even Zeus would fall asleep. Bad news. You're not allowed to step outside. You can't go to the theatre. You can't learn. You can't speak in public. You can't eat with your husband. You can't choose your husband. And if you walk outside alone more than twice, people will start whispering, "Is she that kind of woman?" You're not a slave, but you're not a citizen either. You're a shadow inside your own home. A shadow that weaves fabric, bears children, and disappears right on cue. But don't worry. We won't scream. We won't rage. We won't revolt. No table slamming. No banners. We will lie still in the dark and listen to how a day slowly passes. When you're born with the wrong gender in the right place, dim the lights. Turn on a fan. Let the soft hum drown out the noise in your head. Take a breath, and let's begin the journey of living one day as a woman in Athens. A woman history forgot, but tonight, we will listen to her. Are you ready? Because when the sun rises, you will wake in a world that doesn't say your name, but demands you cook for it. You wake up, not because of an alarm clock, not because the sun is gently pouring through your window, but because your hip hurts like someone's been smashing it with a rock all night. You're lying on a thin sack of straw, right on the dirt floor. No mattress, no pillow, no warm blanket. Just a coarse layer of fabric draped over your body, and a faint hope that tonight might be less cold than the last. You open your eyes. In front of you, darkness. This space isn't exactly a bedroom. It's the gyneconitis, the part of every Athenian home reserved for women. Where you live, where you are hidden away. You don't sleep with your husband. In fact, you're not even allowed to sleep in the same part of the house as him at night, because you're a wife, not an equal. You sit up. Your back is stiff. Your shoulders numb. It feels like you've slept inside a suitcase stuffed in tight and forgotten. Next to you lies a child, your child curled up like a dinner roll. His breath is light. His feet are cold. He kicked you in the chest twice during the night, but you're used to it. You don't have a mirror. You don't need a mirror. Because no one cares what you look like. No one is allowed to see you. And most importantly, you are not allowed to see yourself. That's the unspoken law of ancient Athens. Women do not exist. Not in the square, not in the records, not in speech. You exist like a shadow, like a figure, passing between your husband's two meals. You are not a citizen. You cannot vote, you cannot study, you cannot appear in public. You were born not to be noticed. From this room, no window, no decoration, you hear the heavy footsteps outside in the courtyard. Your husband, he's getting ready to go to the agora, the market, the place of debate, of commerce, of politics, of philosophy, where people are heard. You are not. You will stay here. with straw fabric and silence. The room you're in has no natural light, only a small slit in the roof letting in a blade of sunlight slicing through the darkness as a reminder that outside is a world you don't belong to. You step down. The ground is cold, hard, damp. Not the nice kind of chilly morning, but the kind of cold that gets into your bones, makes you cough every night and still. You have to cook in the morning. You throw on your chiton, a long piece of fabric tied with a rough rope. No underwear, no shoes. You fix your hair, no mirror, just hands. You don't need to look pretty. You just need to be quiet and clean. If you go outside alone, the neighbors will gossip. They'll call you a whore or a Spartan woman. Two things Athenian men fear deeply. You can't go to the market unless a man escorts you. You can't go to the theatre. You can't attend festivals. You can't stand near Athena's temple even though her name is etched into every stone wall in the city. Your husband doesn't beat you. He's not cruel. In fact, he's considered kind. He just doesn't see you. Not really. You're the one who cooks the meal he never compliments. The one who washes his clothes without thanks. The one who bears the child, raises it, teaches it, and then watches that child grow up and call his father's name. Not yours. Everything you do, laundry, cooking, weaving, happens in silence. No applause, no listening. No one asks, "Are you okay?" Because in the eyes of Athenian society, a good woman is a quiet one. You are foundation. You are backdrop. You are scenery. No one writes plays about you. As long as you clean the blood, wash the sheets, and don't cause problems, you fulfilled your role. And yet you continue to exist. You know how to light a fire when the wood is wet. You know how to keep a child asleep even when you're exhausted. You know how to weave cloth like music, thread by thread, not a single beat out of place. You don't need to study philosophy. You live it, in silence, in repetition, in unnoticed labor. But sometimes, you wonder. Not loudly, not clearly. Just a flicker of thought like a coal glowing under ash. What if I could learn to read? What if I could speak in public? What if I had been born a man? You don't have an answer. Because even the question is something you have to hide. You stand by the stove. Your hands are rough. A ray of morning light hits a chipped clay jar glowing faintly red. No one knows your name. No one writes down your dreams. But tonight we are here to listen. With the silence that history left behind. You step out of the gyneconitis, crossing the inner courtyard, the only place where you can touch sunlight without being called shameless. No bathroom, no mirror, no automatic hot water, no coconut-scented shower gel. What you have is a terracotta jar, a ceramic bowl, and a cheap bottle of olive oil. Not for eating, for bathing. You scoop cold water from the jar. No shower head, no warm water. It's cold enough to make you shiver, not the refreshing kind of chill, but the January bucket to the back kind of cold. You splash water on your neck, wash your face, wipe your hands, no soap, no towel. Just olive oil, a metal tool called a strigil, and hope. You pour oil onto your skin, sticky, greasy, slippery like a live eel, not for moisturizing, but to collect dirt. Ancient Greeks believed rubbing oil on the body and scraping it off with a strigil was the best way to clean. No scrubbing, no lather, no soap, just oil. Then, scrape. You pick up the strigil, a curved bronze stick, slightly pointed, its edge somewhat sharp. You begin pulling it down your arm, from shoulder to wrist. A layer of oil, sweat, and dust emerges. You shudder, not from disgust, but because this is the only way you're allowed to touch your own body. You repeat on your neck, chest, back, legs. Each stroke reddens your skin. Not from pressure, but from self-awareness. You're not allowed to think about your body. You can't call it beautiful. You can't call it sensual. Your body is a tool for childbirth, and a liability if anyone other than your husband sees it. You live in a society that worships the goddess of beauty, but real women must cover themselves with 2 layers of fabric and 3 layers of silence. You don't have a mirror, not because you're poor, but because they fear you might start to look at yourself, to look at your youth, to look at your breasts already sagging, your eyes already shadowed, your belly no longer flat after 3 births, to look and to ask, who am I beyond the childbearing and the cooking? No, you don't get to ask, so you don't need a mirror. You bend down and wash your hair with cold water. No shampoo, no conditioner, just a bunch of dried leaves, maybe rosemary, maybe mint, maybe something from nearby clean enough. You scrub your hair like you're scrubbing laundry. The cold water numbs your fingers. You don't complain. No one's listening anyway. Teeth, no toothbrush, no minty 4-in-1 toothpaste. You chew the end of a twig until it frays, then rub it on your teeth. Maybe some ash, maybe vinegar if you happen to have extra time. Your mouth is clean, but your words still have to be kept inside. You don't have time for self-care, because the self is not something that needs care. It's the foundation, the floorboards, the thing people only notice when it collapses. You wipe the strigil clean. Rub it against fabric. You comb your hair, not to look good, but so people won't say you're lazy messy, not like you were when you got married. You put your chiton back on old, rough, thick, slightly damp, smoky smelling, like a small walking tent. You tighten the cloth belt around your waist. Pin the shoulder with a brooch. No underwear, no bra. Just a fragile hope that the wind doesn't pick up today. Because if your dress lifts, you won't just be embarrassed. You'll be considered dangerous. You think about your body and realize it's no longer yours. Your body belongs to your husband when he wants it, to the child when it's hungry, to your parents when they married you off in exchange for land, to the state when it needs new citizens. You are the last person allowed to speak about it. Once you saw blood at the wrong time. You hid it, didn't dare speak, because if you told someone they'd say you were unclean. They might forbid you from touching the kitchen, forbid you from entering the festival, forbid you from touching a sacred statue. So you learn to hide even your pain inside your skirt, and still smile when you serve breakfast to your husband. No spa days, no me time, no self-care Sunday. Just a bowl of water, a bottle of oil, and a woman trying to clean her body, while the world around her just wants her to disappear. You dry yourself with an old piece of linen. You inhale. Fragrant. Not really, but at least you're still here. You dab a bit of cheap perfume on your neck, the lightest scent short-lived, but enough to make you feel like a person. A person, not a utility. A person, not a shadow. And like that, you step out of the cold, damp courtyard. Your body is now clean by the standards of your time. But your mind still hurts. And now, as you walk back into the house where you'll cook food that others eat, first care for children who won't thank you and sit in the corner while the feast unfolds in the courtyard, you quietly continue to exist, because in ancient Athens they taught you how to stay clean, but never how to love yourself. You've washed your face with cold water, scraped your skin with olive oil, and wiped yourself down with a frayed piece of linen. Your body is clean, but you know cleanliness is just the prelude to an endless cycle of labor. No one praises you for being clean. People only notice when you're dirty. And the day begins. Your husband leaves the house early. He goes to the Agora, the central square of Athens, where male citizens debate politics, philosophy, trade, and presence. And you stay behind. In the house where you are the laborer, the caretaker, the keeper, and the hidden. In Athens, if men represent logic and voice, then women are labor and silence, shaped by habit and fear. First task, lighting the hearth. No matches, no gas stove. Just leftover ash from last night's damp wood and a patient breath. You bend down, fanning the coals by hand, waiting for a flicker to flare up, like a whisper saying, keep going. You cook a pot of barley porridge for your husband and your children. You don't eat breakfast. There might not be enough food. Women eat last, if there's any left. Next comes sweeping the yard. No broom made of soft fibers, just a bundle of dry twigs. Dirt, straw, goat droppings, dust, hair. You gather it all into a corner. You hunch over each motion, slow and heavy. You don't lift your head. If someone walks past, you don't greet them. Because women don't greet men first, especially not strangers, especially not if you're still young. You haul a bucket to the well. No cart, no pulley system, just a coarse rope and tired arms. 1 trip to the well, 2 jars of water, 10 trips a day, and that's just enough water for cooking, laundry, and maybe bathing a child. You return sweating through your clothes. No one asks if you're tired. No one looks at you and sees exhaustion. They only see what still hasn't been done. You step into the fabric room, a wooden loom, spools of wool, a shuttle. You sit. Your legs clamp the warp threads. Left hand steadies the frame. Right hand moves the shuttle back and forth. Steady rhythm, creak, creak, creak. The only sound you make all day is the sound of the loom. And it's the only sound you're allowed to repeat. You weave fabric for your household, for your husband, for your children, for slaves, for the temple, for neighbors if they pay. You know which colors suit summer, which threads are less itchy, how to hem a skirt so it won't show too much when you bend. You never studied philosophy, but you understand geometry. You know how to measure cloth count threads, align seams all by eye and hand. Not because you're a mathematician, but because you're not allowed to be wrong. Every mistake is a judgment. A crooked seam can mark you as a careless wife. A singed piece of cloth can be seen as a bad omen. Athenian women don't get to correct mistakes in public, only in silence. The children wake up. The older one asks for water. The little one whines for milk. You weave and soothe at the same time. One arm cradles. One hand guides thread. Your mouth hums softly. Not to lull, just to keep your mind from unraveling. You slice bread for your child, wipe his face, fix his hair. The boy will be taken to school by his father. He will learn math, music, poetry, rhetoric. He can become a citizen. And you can only become the mother of a citizen. You clear the bowls, scrub the pot, take the dirty laundry out to the stream. The stones are slippery, the wind is cold, your knees go numb, your hands crack. No soap, just ash, and your hands. You wash your dress by hand. You wash your menstrual rags by hand. You wash your children's clothes by hand. And if there's a slave, you still have to supervise. Because if they mess up, the fault is still yours. The children wake up. The older one asks for water. The little one whines for milk. You weave and soothe at the same time. One arm cradles. One hand guides thread. Your mouth hums softly. Not to lull, just to keep your mind from unraveling. You slice bread for your child, wipe his face, fix his hair. The boy will be taken to school by his father. He will learn math, music, poetry, rhetoric. He can become a citizen. And you can only become the mother of a citizen. You clear the bowls, scrub the pot, Take the dirty laundry out to the stream. The stones are slippery. The wind is cold. Your knees go numb. Your hands crack. No soap, just ash. And your hands. You wash your dress by hand. You wash your menstrual rags by hand. You wash your children's clothes by hand. And if there's a slave, you still have to supervise. Because if they mess up, the fault is still yours. You finish washing. Head back home. Hang the clothes on the line. No clothespins, you use cactus thorns. The dresses overlap, drying slowly. There's not enough rope to hang them separately. You return to the loom. Sit down again. Again creak. Creak, creak. Your hands are calloused. Your shoulders sore. But you keep going. Because someone has to do it. And you were born to do it. At noon, you bring lunch to your husband if he's working nearby. You don't sit at the table. You stand, wait for him to finish, clear his tray. You're not allowed to ask how his day went. You're not allowed to share how yours did. You return, sip some water, eat a piece of hard cold bread, and keep going. You mend torn clothes, hem a tunic, stitch a broken sandal strap, make herbal paste for your child's scraped skin, pick lice, clean ears, pull cactus thorns from little feet. You light incense at the household altar, offer Hera a bit of bread, pray for your husband's peace, for your child's fever to break, for yourself that you don't get pregnant again. In the afternoon, you teach your daughter how to comb her hair, fold fabric, sit without exposing her legs, walk without making the floorboards creak. You teach her, don't look at strangers, don't laugh too loudly, don't leave the house without your father or brother. You're not lying to her. You're teaching her survival. You look at her, soft hair, bright eyes, and quietly you hope. She doesn't grow up too beautiful, because in Athens beauty is risk. It's danger. It's something that gets you married off early, noticed, too often talked about, and made to disappear. You prepare dinner, simmer stew, chop vegetables, season dried fish. No one helps. No one waits. No one says thank you. You serve the meal. Your husband eats first. Then your son, your daughter, and you last. If there's anything left, you wash dishes, wipe the table, sweep the floor, empty water jars. You rekindle the fire once more so it's quicker to light tomorrow. You put the children to bed. Tell a small story. No gods, no glory. Just a sparrow that flew into the house. A cat that learned to carry bread. Little things. Like you. You fold the cloth. Wipe the altar. Replace wilted flowers. Whisper a prayer. Then you go to sleep. Straw mat. Old cloth. A child pressed against your side. You close your eyes. Tired, but not yet able to sleep. You think about your day. No rest, no laughter. No one asking, how are you? You wonder if you vanished, would anyone remember how to weave the cloth, how to bake the bread, which vegetable your husband prefers, how to teach your child to light incense, how to untangle your daughter's hair. You have no name on any stone, no statue in any temple. But you know this. If you stop, the house will crumble. You are the silent woman, and you are not alone. You stand in front of the table. No chair, no invitation, no question. You don't need to ask, where do I sit? Because you know it's not your turn yet. Athens taught you something early on. The order in which people eat is a measure of their value, and women always at the end of the line. Evening, the main meal of the day. The whole household gathers around a low wooden table. The boys sit near their father. The girls sit near their mother, or they stand. Slaves stand behind, ready to serve and clear. And you, the one who cooked this meal, are still standing. Your hands hold the tray. Your eyes scan the bowls. Your husband begins. He takes the best parts. Dried fish, goat cheese, fresh barley bread, diluted wine, pickled olives. You know what he likes, so you've set it aside. He finishes his first serving. He nods. No words. You understand it's okay to serve more. You divide what's left for your son, then the other boys in the household if there are any. And you, your daughter, and maybe your mother-in-law eat last. No chairs. You sit on the ground. No chopsticks, no spoons, no napkins. Only your hands bread, and a very particular kind of silence. Silence because you're not allowed to be part of the moment. You eat quickly, just enough to have the strength to keep working. Not so much that anyone might think you're greedy. No one says it out loud, but you know. A good woman eats little, speaks little, and knows her place. Food is the honest face of the household. If the family is well off, there will be double-baked bread, fine grape wine, sesame seeds. If poor, only watery porridge and dried onions. But whether rich or poor women always eat last. After everything. Sometimes even after the male slaves. Why? Because you are not the priority. Because your existence is to serve, not to enjoy. Once you bit into a piece of bread so hard your tooth cracked. You didn't say anything. You went hungry the next few days. No one noticed. You've given your portion to your child and gone to sleep on an empty stomach. Not because it's noble, but because it's what you were taught to do. You've stared at a cold piece of food in your hand and thought, if I were a man, maybe this bread would still be warm. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. You wash the dishes. No soap, just sand and ash. You don't stay for tea or dessert, because no one invites you to remain at the table. The meal ends, just like every other. A quiet test, and if you pass it tomorrow, you'll get to take it again. You're not hungry because of the food. You're hungry because of the absence, the lack of being seen, the lack of being invited to sit down. And maybe it's because of that hunger that you still sit there, still live there, still exist. Even though no one counts you as part of the meal. Your house isn't big, but it's your entire universe. Not because you love it, but because you're not allowed to go anywhere else. Athens bustles beyond the walls with markets, temples, music, and philosophers arguing in the streets, but all of it is out of your reach. Not because of distance, but because of limits. You live within stone walls where light enters only through a small courtyard at the center of the house. That courtyard is like a sky, well, a place to dry laundry, dry bread, and sometimes dry out your loneliness, but only when no one is watching. Your room, the gyneconitis, is tucked far in the back or up in the attic, separated from the male quarters. It has no windows to the street, only walls and darkness. You're not allowed to sit on the porch, not allowed to watch people pass by, not allowed to show your face to strangers. In Athens, a woman who is seen too often will be gossiped about, and the honor of your entire family will be measured by how often you appear. Once you stepped outside to meet your child, forgot to cover your head. An older woman looked at you, then turned away, shaking her head. Just one shake, but it made your back cold for an entire week. You have no streets in your memory. Only corridors, no walks, only walking back into the house. No afternoons sipping wine and hearing stories like the men. You only hear their voices echo from the outer room and tuck those echoes into memory. No neighbors, only people who can see you through a crack in the wall. You know the wife of the neighbor to your right by the way she scolds her child. And you know she's given birth to 2 daughters, no sons by the way. She sighs in the silence of noon. If you need to buy something bread, wool, incense, you must ask a slave to go for you, or wait until your husband is free, or simply don't buy it at all. You once wanted to go to the market just to see the color of fresh pomegranates. But who would go with you. And what would people say if they saw you? You are a wife. A good wife is one whose face no one knows. Your space isn't small because there's not enough room. It's small because you don't have rights. No right to step outside without being judged. No right to raise your head without being watched. No right to be called an individual instead of a household attachment. You once dreamed of a small window facing the street, just to sit and watch people go by, to take one long, full breath. But the walls of your house are thick, and society is thicker still. You don't know what sea breeze smells like even though the port is only an hour's walk away. You're not allowed to enter the Temple of Athena, though you pray to her name every night. You're not allowed in school, not allowed on the Pnyx to hear speeches, not allowed inside the theatre. You know everything second-hand from slaves, from your son, from bits of information that slip from your husband's mouth when he forgets himself, mentions a new comedy, then looks at you and falls silent. You swallow your longing, like swallowing stale dry bread, not delicious, but necessary to keep going. You cannot leave the house without a man, not because you're weak, but because the law says you are dangerous, if alone. Dangerous not because of what you might do, but because you exist outside the mold. And so day after day you live in the space wide enough to work, but never wide enough to live. You mop floors, wash clothes, cook meals, teach children all within a few square meters. Even your dreams must shrink small enough to fit within a wall that lets no light in. And if someone asked, what do you want, you'd have to think, long and hard, because you haven't been allowed to want for so long. The world outside is not for you, but you still remember that it exists. You hear the laughter of men in the street, hear the music of a passing parade, hear someone's footsteps running across your courtyard, and you look up only to see a sliver of light. You live in that light. Small, fragile, but real. And tonight that light doesn't go out, because someone is listening to you, retelling every stone, every crack, every invisible line that caged you in. Not to complain, but to remember, to understand, and to ensure that no one else is ever hidden inside their own home again. You don't love your husband, but that doesn't matter. No one asked if you loved him. They only asked, who's her father? How big is the dowry? You got married at 13. Some girls marry younger, some at 11. Not because they're ready, but because their fathers are ready to accept a bride price. The wedding takes place at home. No ceremony, no white dress, no rings, no flowers. Just a group of men the groom's side, a group of women the bride's side, and you passed from your father's hand to your husband's like property. There is wine, there is bread, there is music, but you don't drink, you don't eat, you don't dance. You sit silently smiling until your face aches, and have no voice in your own wedding. You don't know your husband well. He's nearly 20 years older than you. You don't dare look him in the eye, because you were taught that a woman's gaze is a blade to look wrong, is to sin. The wedding night has no flowers, no candles, no whispering, only the sound of a latch opening, heavy footsteps, and a chill like wind slipping under a door. You lie there, hands gripping the edge of the blanket, eyes wide open. Your body belongs to him. You don't need to want. You just need not to resist. You don't remember the feeling clearly. Only that in the morning an older woman checked the bedsheet. There was a red stain. Someone nodded. Everyone was relieved. And just like that you were a wife. After the wedding you move into his house. No honeymoon. Just the first week of waking earlier, smiling more, fearing everything. You learn how to mix wine to the right strength, how to clear the table without making a sound, How to exit a room without turning your back, because a wife must always be modest and always ready. You're not allowed to ask about money, not allowed to discuss household affairs, not allowed to sit in on family meetings when guests are present. You are the one who keeps the hearth, but no one lets you light the fire. Soon you're pregnant. No one asks if you're ready. They only ask, are you nauseous? Is the baby moving? Do you hope it's a boy? You give birth to your first child in a small room without a midwife. You bite on a cloth. You push. You nearly pass out. No one knows except the women in the house. It's a boy. Someone in your husband's family says good. The girl's lucky. It's the first time anyone calls you lucky, not because of you, but because of the gender of the baby you gave birth to. Time passes. Your husband still goes to the agora, still gives speeches, still debates politics. You stay home, still giving birth, still not mentioned when they talk about the builders of the Athenian state. You don't ask where he's going. Don't ask who he's with. Don't ask why he comes home late, because asking is disrespectful. You once heard of a woman who argued with her husband at the market. A week later, she was sent back to her parents' house. No one took her back. You learned your lesson. A wife is for use, not for listening. One day your husband takes you to a public celebration. You don't sit at the same table. You don't speak. You don't touch the wine. You sit in the women's row, eyes down, ears open, listening to a life you'll never enter. They tell stories. They laugh loudly. They call each other by name. No one calls your name. They call you his wife. You live in a marriage they call sacred. But you don't know where the sacred part is. You only know that you belong to someone else. You are a signature never written, an agreement without consent. You don't resist, not because you're weak, but because you know if you resist, you lose everything, even if what you have is already very little. Sometimes you watch your husband sleep, his back turned toward you, his body twitching slightly, and you wonder, has he ever seen me as a person, or just part of the kitchen, a corner of the bed, a shadow he pulls forward when needed? You don't ask, because you know in this marriage, what you need is to exist. What you want is a luxury. Marriage for you is not love, not partnership, not a choice. It's a transaction. You are the dowry, able to bear children, able to cook, able to serve, and able to do it all silently. You have no marriage contract, no right to leave, no law that protects you from violence, only a law that protects your family's reputation. And then one day, you look at your daughter. She's 10. Her hair is long. Her eyes are bright. Your heart tightens when you notice someone staring at her a little too long. You know time is short. You'll have to marry her off soon. And you know you're preparing to hand her into the same contract you were handed into. You have no other way, no choice. But tonight, when everything has quieted, when no one speaks your name, when the curtain has fallen, I'm here to say to you, you deserve to be chosen. You deserve to be loved, seen, and heard. You are not a deposit. You are a person. And even if they never told you that I will, you have lived, and you deserve to be remembered. You once had a name, but after you got married, they called you wife of. After giving birth, they called you mother of. And after many births, you slowly came to understand this body no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the family because it must bear heirs. It belongs to society because it must produce citizens. It belongs to men because they want to see themselves immortal through lineage. And you are the in-between, a walking womb. The first time you got pregnant, you were scared. No one told you what would happen. Only advice eat this avoid. That pray to Hera, don't let anyone with a bad gaze see you. No one spoke about the pain. No one mentioned the blood. No one asked if you were ready. They only said, try to have a boy. Giving birth had no bed, no doctor, just a floor, old cloth. And if you were lucky, a midwife. You pushed, you cried, you nearly passed out, but you didn't scream, because they'd say you were weak. Athenian women are taught to endure in silence. The child is born. It's a boy. You see the sparkle in the elder's eyes. Some smile, some exhale relief. You don't even get to hold the baby before he's taken away. You just lie there. Blood, sweat, an empty belly, but a heart full of weight. After childbirth, you rest for a few days. Then you get back up, to breastfeed, to cook, to weave, to carry. No one supports your back. No one supports your words. If the baby is weak, you're blamed. You ate the wrong things. You didn't rest enough. You didn't know how to protect the pregnancy. If it's a girl, no one blames you, but no one celebrates either. It's okay. Try again for a boy, and you know you'll have to give birth again. You give birth 3, 4, 5 times. None of them are easy. Each one hurts. Each one bleeds. Each one terrifies. But no one calls it an achievement. You're not called a hero, just a good mother. A title that sounds noble, but really, it's the bare minimum. You once heard of a woman who died in childbirth. She wasn't given a gravestone, just a faint inscription. Wife of Lysandros died in labor. You shivered. Sometimes you watch your child playing, and for a moment you forget that your body once had youth, once had a waist, once knew how to dream. Now you are the arms that hug, the breast that feeds, the hands that soothe, the legs that fetch water. You are everything except yourself. And strangely, even as they see you as just a womb with legs, you still love your children. You love with instinct, with tears, with exhaustion. You teach them to speak, to laugh, to call their father dad, even though they've never once called you mom in front of others. You know one day your daughter will also become a wife and mother. Your son will leave home, become a citizen, earn rights. You will fade back, become a grandmother, a babysitter, a shadow on the floor, and you accept that, not because you believe it's fair, but because you've grown used to never asking what is fairness. But tonight, I want to do something you rarely got to hear in your life. Thank you for giving birth to others, even when no one ever gave birth to gratitude for you. You are a person, not a tool. You are a mother, but you were once a daughter, a young girl, your own self. And I'm here to remember you, not just because you gave birth, but because you lived. Night, no moon, no voices, only wind slipping through a crack in the door and the steady breathing of the children sleeping beside you. You lie there, eyes wide open, staring into the dark, not because you're not sleepy, but because you haven't been allowed to rest yet. The fire hasn't been prepped for tomorrow. The clothes haven't been folded. The child isn't deeply asleep. The door hasn't been latched. The incense hasn't been lit for the small altar in the corner. All those little things, they're your job. Nameless tasks. But if they're missing, the whole house notices and blames you. You lie on a straw mat. Your arm is your pillow. No mattress, no cushion, no thick quilt like the noble women. Just a thin wool blanket and a habit lie on your side facing away to leave more room for the child. You hear your child stir. You hear your own heartbeat. You hear invisibility peeling itself off your body one quiet piece at a time. For men, sleep is rest. For you, it's just a pause between two endless cycles of days. A nameless breakpoint. A silence no one records. You don't have dreams. Or if you do, you don't remember. Only the feeling to close your eyes and not be called to do something. You once dreamed of walking outside in daylight, hair down, white clothes, No one stared. No one counted your footsteps. No one told you to go back inside. You woke up and knew it was just a dream. Many nights you don't sleep, not because you're tired, but because the question plays in your mind. If I disappear tomorrow, who will replace me? Who will remember the incense on the first of the month? Who will remember that your husband's tunic is frayed? Who will remember that your son prefers thick porridge? Who will know that your daughter just got her first blood? You nameless in all documents are the one who holds the rhythm of the house. And then you grow tired. Your eyelids droop. Your body chills. Your hands release. Consciousness melts like candle wax. You slip under. Not deeply, but just enough to not hear the calling. Just enough to not be silent. Just enough to not be a tool. You drift into a space where no one knows who you are. Not a wife, not a mother, not a shadow. Just yourself, a woman, a soul, a being. And in that unnamed sleep you get to rest, even if only for a few hours, even if no one calls it a reward. Tonight there is a different kind of sleep, a sleep that is told, understood, seen, not a sleep that forgets you, but a sleep that remembers you lived even if the only thing you were allowed to do was lie down. In silence, every morning you light incense at the small altar, not because you understand the full philosophy of religion, but because you were taught if you don't offer something the gods get angry, and women shouldn't make anyone angry. Athens worships hundreds of gods, some male, some female. There are gods of war, gods of love, and even gods unofficially of sweeping the floor you believe one must exist. You especially love Athena, goddess of wisdom, protector of the city, strong, helmet on her head spear in hand, a symbol of female power. Even the name of your city comes from hers. And yet bitterly you, a woman living in Athens, are not allowed to step inside Athena's temple. You may light incense from a distance, but you may not step further in. You may not look the statue in the eyes. You may not attend the core rituals. Those are privileges reserved for men, or priests, or chosen Vestal virgins who must live their entire lives in isolation. Religion is a sacred space, but for you it is both a source of comfort and a door that always stays closed. You hear your husband talk about festivals like the Panathenaea, parades, music contests, offerings, but you're not allowed to see them, not allowed to join. You only hear the faint sound of music drifting in from beyond the rooftops. You've heard stories of the mystical Eleusinian rites, but only second-hand. These so-called sacred mysteries are always on the other side of a wall made of gender. Religion teaches the sanctity of childbirth, but no one ever asks what childbirth feels like. Religion praises Hera, goddess of marriage, but Hera is often portrayed as jealous, angry, a reminder that wives should know their place and accept it. You pray for your child's health, for your husband's peace, for yourself to not get pregnant again. You offer a fig, a handful of grain, a few drops of wine, quietly, wordlessly. No one sees. You believe because if you didn't, you'd have nothing left to hold on to. When your child has a fever, you pray to Asclepius. When your husband is away, you pray to Hermes. When crops are failing, you pray to Demeter. You don't know if the gods hear you, but you pray anyway, because you have no right to demand, only the right to hope. You look at the small terracotta statue of the goddess in the corner of your home. It's not grand, not majestic, but it's the only place where you see a woman's face being honored. You silently think, if only the goddess could step down, sit beside you, listen to your stories, hold your hand through childbirth, Hear the cries you've hidden in your pillow at night. But goddesses are immortal, and you are not. You're just defiant in silence. Religion in Athens is the soul of the city, but women like you are just shadows that circle that soul. You are not named, not given voice, not allowed to witness. You don't rebel, not because you don't want to, but because you know people may forgive an ignorant wife, but they never forgive a wife who knows too much. And so you keep praying, keep believing, keep living in a world where even the gods are gendered to uphold the order of men. You are not someone behind religion. You are the one who keeps religion alive, not because of Athenian men, but because of women like you who light the lamps, wipe the altars, teach children how to bow, and close their eyes to whisper prayers in silence. Night begins to fall. You don't know what time it is. No clock, no bells. Only the sunlight fading from the courtyard, leaving behind a pale smudge grey on the stone wall. You light the fire one last time. Boil a little water. Relight the oil lamp as it sputters. You do these things without thinking, like a heartbeat, like breathing, like a silent form of existence no one counts. Your child is asleep. Your husband is already in the bedroom. You gather the laundry that didn't dry in time. Wipe the table. Latch the door. Carefully, as if the whole world now consists of you and the few things that could still break. You walk past the small bronze mirror hanging in the corner. You don't look in, just glance. And in that fleeting moment, you see a quiet woman staring back. No makeup, no glow, no shine. But she's the one who kept this house standing through an entire day without a single witness. You don't need applause. You don't need awards. But a kind look, even from yourself, is sometimes enough to soften a lifetime of endurance. You lie down on a straw mat, a thin blanket pulled up to your neck, children sleeping next to you. You face the wall, arms tucked in. This position isn't for comfort. It's habit. Because in your world, women sleep in ways that make sure no one thinks they're taking up too much space. You think back on the day. No big events, no standout moments. But you did 10 things at once. Remembered 10 details no one reminded you of. Prevented 10 little problems from becoming disasters. You braved the morning cold, skipped lunch, soothed 2 crying children, heard a single sentence that weighed on your chest the entire afternoon. No one saw, no one asked. You don't expect it anymore, not because you don't need it, but because you've grown used to being invisible. Invisible at meals, invisible in conversations, invisible even at your most exhausted, broken, or wounded. You once thought if you truly disappeared one day, would anyone notice? Who would wake early to make porridge? Who would remember your husband doesn't like garlic? Who would fold your child's clothes just the way he likes? Who would mend shirts, light incense, swat mosquitoes, and tell bedtime stories? No one. And no one would realize until you were gone. But tonight you are still here. You are still breathing, still warm, still the only person in this house who knows everything that matters, but no one says your name. You lived an invisible day, but not a meaningless one. You were quiet, but never insignificant. And in this quiet night, someone is telling the story of your day. Not to praise, not to glorify, just to say, I see you. I know you lived. And that is worth remembering. You have no statue, no books, no philosophy named after you. You never stood on a podium, never held a spear, never sat in the agora to teach virtue to the next generation. But you were there in every grain of rice washed, in every piece of fabric woven, in every child who grew up healthy, educated, and heard because of a mother who stayed silent at the right moment. You exist in the small things that history forgets, but it is you who kept the world from falling apart. History writes the names of men who act, but history is stitched together by women who endure. You were not carved into stone, but tonight you are carved into someone's memory. Someone listening, eyes closed, breathing gently and seeing you in every word. No one remembers your name. So tonight I'll give you a simple one that matches how you lived the keeper of fire, the one who cooked, the silent one, the woman no one wrote about, but everyone once relied on. Sleep well. Tonight you are not invisible. You are seen, you are told, and you are honored. Tomorrow is another day, but the memory of you has already stayed behind in the hearts of those who heard you, and that alone is enough to soften history like a mother's hand.